Yeah, that's fine.
Well, exactly what
Good, mate, that nobody would. I think some people would want it. It's 11. It's very appealing. It's 1:30.
at 11.
Good for curry. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Statutory Planning Committee meeting of Wednesday, the 2nd of July, 2025. I'd like to welcome all of those in person as well as those attending online today. The meeting is being live streamed and recorded and will be available for viewing via the Commission's website or YouTube. Committee members may refer to technical devices throughout the meeting to assist them in considering the information before them and to take notes in assisting them with their deliberations. I'd like to acknowledge that we are meeting on the lands of the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation and pay our respects to elders past and present. Apologies and leave of absence. Today we do have apologies from Commissioner Brooks, who is on a leave of absence, and apologies from Member Moore. All other members are in attendance, and I welcome Commissioner Adair attending online. Disclosures of interest, I have none today. And I just do need to let you all know that item 3.1, which is the proposed subdivision for lot 107 Lillian Avenue in Armidale, has been withdrawn pending further review. So we are today just dealing with item 3.2, which is the development application to extend the use of the Wheatstone Village Workforce Accommodation Facility in the Ashburton North Strategic Industrial Area. So members, are there any conflicts of interest in relation to that item 3.2? There are none. Thank you very much. And members, any disclosures of representation in relation to that item? There are none. Thank you. The declaration of due consideration. Can all members please indicate that they have received and considered that the agenda ahead of today's meeting? Thank you very much all. And additional information from members. I believe questions have been asked, but they have been responded to verbally. In relation to item 1.6, the confirmation of the previous minutes of Wednesday, the 4th of June. Members, are there any comments in relation to the minutes? Are you happy to move and second? Thank you. Commissioner Lakey's moved and Commissioner Herring has seconded. Any dissent? Thank you very much. The minutes are carried. So we'll go now to deputations and presentations, and I'll hand over to Sam. Thanks, Sam.
Thank you, Chair. I welcome everyone to make a deputation to the Statutory Planning Committee on item 3.2 on the agenda today. You will be invited to join the committee at the table or promoted to a panellist via Zoom to deliver your deputation this morning. You have been advised of your allocated time, which will be managed by a timer which will appear on the screen, and it will alert you when your time has concluded. If you have a PowerPoint presentation this morning, this will be displayed on the screen throughout your deputation, and you're requested to advise as you wish to advance the slides. So moving to the first deputation on item 3.2, which is the request to extend the Wheatstone Village Workforce Accommodation Facility in the Ashburton North Strategic Area. And we're welcoming Aaron Augustin and Chantel McGurk, and they are joining us online this morning. Good morning, Aaron.
Good morning, panel. Just awaiting Chantel.
Yeah. Sorry. Yep, Chantel's joining now.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chantel. I can see that you've turned your audio on. Are you able to turn your video on so you may participate on the Commission members' screens? There we go. We can see you now. Thanks very much. And welcome to you both. We'll bring up your presentation now and invite you to commence your deputation. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, WAPC Chair and SPC members. I'm speaking on behalf of the Shire of Ashburton in opposition to the proposed extension of the time-limited approval for Wheatstone transient workforce accommodation to November 2061. The Shire's reasons for objecting to the application are outlined in our written submission dated the 5th of June 2025, which is included in your agenda papers. Today, I'd like to summarise our concerns for your consideration. When the facility was approved in 2017, it was granted for 15 years and ending in 2032. The approval was based on the understanding that it would support construction workers in the short term and the operational workers would eventually move into Onslow. Almost doubling the original approval term to 2061 will turn what is meant to be a temporary FIFO camp into a permanent settlement. This is not the original decision and the planning framework ever intended and does not align with WAPC's position statement on workforce accommodation. Both the position statement and the 2015 parliamentary inquiry into FIFO work practices highlight the serious risks of long-term FIFO camps. These include impact on workers, mental health, a loss of local economic benefit, and pressure on housing and services in nearby towns. This will be the case here if this extension is granted, by keeping hundreds of workers in temporary camp for another 36 years. Those workers could instead be accommodated in Onslow, a convenient driving distance from the ANZIA. To address the concerns, the Shire commissioned a social and economic impact statement, which found that relocating the workforce accommodation covered by this application to Lot 4001 in Onslow would bring a far greater social and economic benefits. Chevron owns Lot 4001 in Onslow, which is a well-located site, originally intended for the operational workforce accommodation, but this site remains undeveloped. Page 6 of your agenda states that relocating the camp to Lot 4001 is not practical because it is already built and moving the whole workforce would be a major change. Respectfully, the Shire does not agree with this contention. The workforce accommodation subject to its application is and was always intended to be temporary. It was not intended to exist for more than 4 decades. Any short-term cost and inconvenience to Chevron in relocating its workforce to Onslow would easily be offset and overshadowed by the longer-term benefits to both Chevron's workforce and Onslow of relocating workers from the temporary facility in ANZIA to the permanent community of Onslow. The Shire doesn't expect Chevron to immediately shut down or relocate its workforce, but instead we are seeking a more practical outcome and respectfully ask the committee to approve a shorter extension for the construction and maintenance workers only, limited between 5 to 10 years, and include a condition that requires a community integration and investment strategy to be developed in consultation with the Shire, setting out practical actions and support local services and infrastructure, clear targets for local jobs and contracts, and aligning with the ANZIA scheme, the Shire's community plan and the State Development Agreement. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chantel. Aaron, did you have anything further to add?
Yes, I do, but I am conscious of time. So my remarks relate to some of the details of the social impact assessment, the economic assessment prepared for the Shire. So we might just advance some of the slides past just to the social impact assessment. Next one, please. And building on Chantel's commentary, I would implore the panel that any decision today shouldn't simply be taken through the lens of land use planning compliance, but it should be extended to the broader socioeconomic outcomes and potential opportunity loss by a decision like this. The Shire's social impact assessment is an objective, holistic review of the impacts of relocating to Onslow. It does not attempt to overstate the positive impacts or indeed the benefits of retention at the ANZIA. Next slide, please. The existing social conditions in the study area are heavily shaped by the existing arrangements, that is, of the existing village, being that almost all of Chevron's Wheatstone workforce is based at the ANZIA. Leveraging the benefits of relocation is contingent on the behaviour of Chevron and its workforce. These behaviours relating to workforce planning, procurement of goods and services, as well as the potential for the workforce to contribute to community life, volunteering, and the local economy. The SIA is accompanied by an economic impact assessment, and the assessment assumes that the behaviours of this procurement and economic benefits are largely driven by decisions of Chevron. Regardless, it still identifies that there are significant opportunities for increased local spending over the several decade extension being sought, the potential for this to generate additional retail and hospitality service footprint within the town of Onslow, additional local employment opportunities that flow through, and the potential for significantly reduced rent and access to housing as Chevron releases its existing housing stock within the town to the wider market. As stated by the Shire, an extension period that enables a period of transition to occur, supported by a community integration and investment strategy, will help guide change in these behaviours and an improvement to the social baseline of Onslow and the surrounding district. A decision to continue operations at Ansia for several more decades locks in these behaviours and provides little incentive for change. Such a decision pushes against the Commission's stated position that accommodation facilities should be, as much as practical and over time, integrated into local communities. I would encourage the committee to consider the opportunities lost for engagement, collaboration, and benefit between the Shire, Chevron, and its wider community. Thank you, and happy to take any questions on the SAA.
Thank you very much, Chantal and Aaron. It's Emma Cole, the chair here. Really appreciate your deputation this morning, and you've been very clear about your requests. I will now open up to members to see if there are any questions for you. Go ahead, Ray, and then.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, there was reference made in terms of the state agreement, and can I just be clear, is there any references or commitments made within the state agreement in terms of the accommodation and the integration? It is question one. Question two is in relation to, obviously, the development of a site adjoining Onslow, and I'm drawing upon my Karratha experiences here. Having a camp which adjoins the town doesn't necessarily have any integration attached to it. Is your request or premise that it should be, if you like, normalised accommodation, or is there an acceptance that it needs to be some level of managed camp?
First question, yes, there is a relation into the state agreement for them to come back into town was part of the state agreement. Part of your second question, we would like to work with Chevron on what opportunities we could have on what the camp may look like. As you may or may not know, we've got mineral resources on our doorstep in town, and we have been working with mineral resources on how that integrates into our community. And so far, on our agreements with mineral resources, it's looking very positive for our community and the integration into town.
Go ahead.
Chantal, question. So Chevron own quite a number of houses in town.
Yes, they do.
Lots. I assume that the houses that are built in that new Onslow subdivision are majority owned by Chevron. Are they currently occupied?
So there's 50 houses in Barada Estate, and currently there is a number of houses occupied by Chevron employees, but there's approximately 10 to 15 that are not occupied by Chevron employees.
Members, any other questions? Chantal and Aaron, just in relation to the commentary in the report before us now on page 8, it does talk on Chevron's position, in that it's delivered a number of benefits into Onslow, and it's listed there. I won't read them all out, but it talks about the aquatic centre, the airport upgrade, the company houses, etc. Do you feel that this do you note this contribution? Has this seen to be part of contribution to the town and recognised by the town? As a significant contribution, or I'm just really interested in your views on what impact that's having.
Yeah, through the chair, it definitely has had a massive impact for our township and our community. Without that infrastructure and that investment, we wouldn't be in the position to be saying we would like you to come into town for our future, for economic benefit. So absolutely, it set us up for success and to be open for business.
Okay, thanks, Chantal. Yes, Commissioner Lakey. Oh, sorry, and then Commissioner Adair, you also have your hand up.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chantal. Just one of the comments from Chevron in that they will need up to 900 workers
require for a major shutdown, and the concern that wouldn't be able to be accommodated in the town. I just want your thoughts on that.
Okay, from the Shire of Ashburton's point of view, I don't necessarily agree with that comment. We do have Discovery Parks that is purpose built for contractor accommodation, one of a better word. It does have 300 rooms there as well. So there is options available that need to be explored.
Thank you.
Commissioner Adair. Oh, well, you're muted.
Sorry.
Oh, now I can hear you. Oh,
Can you hear me?
Yes, it was very low. My apologies.
Sorry, I'll speak louder. Thank you, Chantal and Aaron. I'm just wondering, Chantal, what discussions have you had with Chevron to this point? Any?
Yes, we have. Yes, we have. We do have a very good relationship with Chevron, and I want to make that very clear. And we have had open, transparent conversations, but our position is still that we would like to see them integrated into the community.
Yes, Member Franklin.
Yes, hello. I just want to look at the currency of the current approval and how that would work if it was extended for the longer time period. Are there any other matters that would need to be considered within that time frame? I note that there are plans that have been prepared, such as the bushfire, mosquito and water management, but are there any other matters that may need to be considered in the extension of this approval?
Or Chantal, you happy to take that question?
I'll pass over to Aaron. Aaron, did you want to comment on that one?
I'm not sure I understand the full context.
I suppose that we're working within an existing approval and that we're extending the time of that approval. And it's extending it out to a longer time period. I'm just exploring that the matters that are part of this approval, that there's nothing additional that would need to be considered with the extension of that time and the matters included in this approval.
In terms of environmental factors affecting
Yes.
the site, or I guess if that facility has been demonstrated to be operating effectively over the last decade and a half, it would only be if the facility was to, say, be extended further in terms of its physical footprint. Otherwise, the SIA does include some information about the environmental suitability of land in the ANSIA more generally, and then obviously with Lot 4001. But I guess to answer your question, no, there'd be nothing that would be immediately apparent with an extension of term.
So the development approval is robust enough in its operational matters and so forth as at this time?
As it stands.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Members, any further questions?
Sorry, if I may, just one additional question is in relation to the assertion that Chevron has made around stakeholders actually preferring the current scenario because of the reduced strain on the township, and particularly in a context of seeking certainty and clarity. Can I ask, has there been engagement? Is there a sense in terms of what local community feedback is in relation to this?
Yeah, there is, and that's been captured in our SIA. The community is quite neutral, but they want to see the opportunity for growth, and that's what this comes down to. For the Onslow to grow and be sustainable, we need that growth in residential and workforces. So while it might be seen as it's just a camp, they'll be doing 12-hour shifts. That's not necessarily true. The benefit that comes in, I mean, I look after Tom Price and Paraburdoo, they're FIFO towns as well. They very much work in with the community into sporting groups, businesses and stuff like that. So we know it works.
Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Member Knight.
Thank you. I was wondering if you would mind commenting just on the Onslow social impact assessment. Sorry, I'll just bring it up just down in the summary. The comment there, it will introduce a broader set of shorter and long-term social impacts in relation to that summary of that study.
This is scenario 2, relocation.
So I'd like some elaboration.
Yes, please. Yeah, just a kind of response to that.
Chantal, is that something you're...
Aaron, you want to, yeah.
Yeah, so the summary, the impact tables that are included in that document summarise the changes. A lot of those are driven by shorter term construction impacts on the town, and the potential broader social integration impacts that occur in the long term. But I would say that those are obviously contingent on things such as the design of the facility, and how Chevron enables and encourages its workforce to integrate and interact with the rest of the town.
Aaron, any further questions? Thank you very much for your deputation today and for taking our questions. Very much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
The next deputation this morning, also on item 3.2, we're welcoming Janelle Kavanagh, Danny Woodall, Yara Griffiths, Sean Fairfowl and Daniel Hollingworth. Please join us at the table.
Morning.
We ready? We don't have anything to display on the screen. No. So yeah, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. So good morning, Chair and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you today regarding Chevron's development application in respect of the Wheatstone Village. My name is Janelle Kavanagh. I'm the Base Business Commercial Manager for Chevron Australia. I'm joined by my colleague Danny Woodall, who's our Director of Operations, and Yara Griffiths, who's our Communities and Partnerships Manager. So Chevron and the Wheatstone joint venture seek to amend the approval term to 2061. The extension is crucial to align with the operational timeline of the Wheatstone project, providing certainty for the long-term accommodation of the workforce and support critical investment decisions. The village is a purpose-built accommodation facility for the Wheatstone project. It's located 10 minutes drive from the gas processing plant. It offers high quality accommodation and amenities for the critical for our well-being of our workforce, as highlighted in our social impact statement. The village houses our fly-in and fly-out workforce of around 300 workers and critically can comfortably accommodate the additional 900 plus workers, which is required for our major maintenance events, which occur routinely every few years. Having certainty on our long-term accommodation for both the FIFO workers and our major maintenance workforce is essential. The timeliness of a decision today is key for significant commercial investments. Upgrades to the Wheatstone Village are scheduled to commence in the second half of this year, ahead of next year's major maintenance event. Notably, this is why Chevron commenced engagements with key stakeholders in early 2024. The proximity of the Wheatstone Village to the Wheatstone project is vital for our workforce wellbeing and fatigue management. The 24-hour nature of our operations and a 14-day straight roster makes minimising commute time and maximising rest time essential for the safety and wellbeing of our workforce. Given the roster required for safe operations, there is limited opportunity for integration into the community. I would like to highlight the importance of the village to the ongoing operation of the Wheatstone project. The project operates 365 days a year, producing 8.9 million tonnes of LNG exports per year and approximately 20% of the state's domestic gas supply. This contribution is vital for the economic prosperity and growth of the region and Western Australia. We are proud of our contribution to the Onslow community, having invested more than $355 million in social and critical infrastructure in Onslow. Chevron continues to contribute significantly to discretionary social investment partnerships benefiting Onslow. These investments have improved the quality of life for residents, created jobs, stimulated economic growth in Onslow, and importantly, enabled other proponents to invest in the town. So in summary, the Wheatstone project has brought and will continue to provide benefits to Onslow and Western Australia. The village is an integral part of this and can continue to provide high quality accommodation and facilities in support of our Wheatstone project. So Chevron respectfully requests the Statutory Planning Committee to support the approval of our development application to extend the term to 26. Thank you.
Thank you.
From a planning perspective, we'd like to thank the department for their consideration and report. And as outlined in our deputation request, we're generally supportive of the recommendation from the department, albeit with a minor modification. You've already read our request. I'm not going to go through all of that again, but just want to identify a couple of things. From a planning perspective, we're of the view that this is pretty straightforward. The site is zoned to allow the use. The continued use is consistent with the overall planning framework. Has obviously occurred for a significant number of years. And there's nothing in the planning framework that prohibits the continued extension of the approval period. You've heard about from Chevron the importance of the facility and the operational imperatives for the continued operation and how it is fit for purpose. And there is a need for certainty associated with the planning approval, so a number of non-planning decisions and discussions can continue. We note that Shire has raised some concerns on the back of the draft social impact assessment, and we note that the Shire's preference for the facility to be located closer to within the town. However, from an operational perspective, a pure integration of this facility into the town is not possible. The super lot is constrained, and we can't accommodate the 900 people that are needed, even if we would have farmed some of them out to other locations. Due to the operational requirements, security, HS requirements, the integration isn't possible. There's limited downtime as a result of the shifts, so involvement in community sport and community activities is limited. It's important to note that Chevron facilitates people to go into the town when they're not on shift. But there's also enterprise bargain agreements that provide for the type and quantity of both the accommodation and the facilities that are provided, and those things can't be renegotiated, or those things can't change. On that basis, the scheme includes consideration for both the wider social impacts, but as well as the consideration for the workers' well-being. And the workers have clearly articulated certainly in our social impact assessment about their desire to continue action that is the facility that's currently before you. So on that basis, we'd ask you to support the change with the alteration to condition 1 to align it with the rest of the.
Thank you very much. Is that the conclusion of your deputation?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Then I'll open to members for questions. Commissioner Heron.
Thank you. I suppose the first question is, and there's no dispute about the statutory component, but obviously there was an approval which had a time frame attached to it. What's changed in terms of that was obviously agreed to at the time? Has there been a circumstantial change whereby that situation is no longer in place? And secondly, I suppose attached to that, given the reference that was made to the state agreement, could you explain perhaps the interface with that state agreement? And, you know, I'm wanting to understand, is it a case of one or the other, or is there a proposition whereby having some level of integration for some components of workforce may well be a consideration?
So I can take the state development agreement in terms of the requirements. There was requirements to integrate, which are around our residential workforce, and there is a residential workforce. Chevron, Kira can probably talk a little bit more to this, but Chevron built a residential facilities in Onslow, which we have 40 plus families based in Onslow now. So that was part of the state development agreement. In terms of the integration of our FIFO workforce, where the lot 4001 is right now is on the outskirts of town anyhow. So obviously there's an additional commute from the lot into the town for integration on that, or if we were to have built on lot 4001. Fundamentally, the workforce wellbeing is critical for the safe operations of the Whetstone plant, and one of the key stakeholders in our social impact assessment was the workforce, and they have clearly articulated, given the shift, the 14-day straight work shift roster, 12-hour days, that additional commute time is detrimental really for their well-being. That and plus then a further commute from the lot 4001 into town would be an additional time again for integration into the community. So we don't see that as we don't see an integration into the community being any more beneficial being in lot 4001 than we are now.
Sorry, if I may. Yeah, and again, accept that, and clearly workforce wellbeing needs to be front of mind, and I'm definitely keen to, to support that. I suppose I'm also trying to understand, however, that there was clearly a level of agreement, it would appear at one point, that there would be a move, and I'm trying to understand. So is it just that based on the worker feedback that is the change that has happened, or whether there was some other structural or economic component attached to it?
Yeah, that's a good question. Sorry, I didn't answer that. But and I guess, yes, over time there has been changes. We've also made upgrades to the services and amenities of the actual Wheatstone Village. You would see through our sort of application some of the, it's a very high class worker accommodation. We have the facilities and amenities that are provided are of a very high quality nature, I guess, and can provide more than potentially we had originally anticipated, and that's because of the works that have been done over time since we originally moved into the facility. So the facility was initially a construction worker accommodation that actually was changed to provide condition to allow for permanent operations workforce. So that at that point in time, that was an investment opportunity to upgrade and provide much more services, which we do have now. So really a very high quality gym, ice baths, music rooms, games rooms. We have other things.
Can I add one more thing that's changed and evolved, I think, is our understanding of what it takes to do the major maintenance that we talked about. And this has evolved over time. We more recently taken decisions that require even more probably than this 900 that's quoted. It's 900 plus. Just the way that we organize the maintenance, taking all of our plants down at a single time. And I'm not sure we envision that and that level of staffing that we would need on occasion, which just can't be accommodated in a new accommodation compared to the original construction camp that's been hardened now with the extra amenities, can well and truly handle the 900 plus. So I think those two things are pretty significant changes in our thinking since those original discussions.
If I may, just then further to that is, I suppose, challenging the proposition that it's not possible. Would it be fair to say it is possible, but there are implications in terms of both cost and in terms of workforce satisfaction? Would that be a reasonable?
Well, anything's possible. We could put an accommodations barge, which is an alternative, which is a very poor workforce health and safety alternative to have people living on a barge for months at a time. So yes, I guess there are possibilities, but none that when you weigh out the things that we're talking about here, none that pan out to me.
I'm just wanting to clarify because again, from a planning perspective, impossible is a fairly fixed term. I fully accept that there are many considerations. I'm just wanting to get granularity to what we are considering, and it is around workforce impact, investment, and I suppose the counterbalance of that is what is the respective benefit that would be derived. And as I sort of say, it's something that I have particular experience and views on, but I would be keep that for the debate.
Thank you. Commissioner Dare and then Member Harmon.
Thanks, Chair. You've heard what the Shire had to say. Forgive the question because I haven't worked in the Northwest, so I'm not all that familiar with the way things operate other than what I've been told. So the relationship that Chevron and that whole workforce has with the town beyond the contributions that you've made to facilities, etc., in the town. Is there any interface at all other than those that work in there? Like the Shire is saying that it would provide better social opportunities, etc., for the workforce. What's your position on that?
Yeah, so I can answer that. So I can talk to how it currently kind of works. And as Janelle has mentioned, we do have 40 plus families residing in the town, and there's going to be no change. You know, as part of our application, we're just talking about it, the FIFO workforce. So the residential workforce remains. We have a long history of our employees and their families, so, you know, spouses, etc., really becoming entrenched in the town, volunteering for, you know, St. John Ambulance or Marine and Rescue, etc. We have we have quite a few actual long-term residents. So often we have people that go up there for 3 or 4 years and then ask to stay. So it's not uncommon to have people there for 7, 8. I have a couple of team members who've been there 12, 13 years. So they really become integrated into the town and fall in love with Onslow, to be honest. We have people based in town. We have a town office with a small number of staff. So we've been really deliberate from the outset about becoming a part of the community and integrating into the community. And I think if you were to go up to Onslow, that would be the general perception. I would be confident that would be the general perception of the community. In regards to how things might change if the FIFO workforce was located closer into town, I think on paper it might appear that there would be an increase in integration or an economic uplift, but the reality is our FIFO workforce do 12-hour days for 14 days straight, so there's no day offs. There is not. We don't have a roster where they have a rest day and then they go back on swing. It is they essentially fly in, they work, and then they fly out, and then with the additional commute time from the facility into town, we've worked out that they probably get around 3 hours of rest time per evening. So that includes, you know, having dinner, which would obviously be provided in the camp, and then any personal things that they would want to do, like go to the gym or do their laundry, et cetera, et cetera. So in reality, it's actually the opportunity to become more integrated in the town is limited. One thing I might point out as well is the way that our swings work for most of our FIFO workforce is they do 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, 2 weeks on, and then 4 weeks off. So the opportunity to join a sporting club or, you know, be a regular volunteer is also limited in regards to that aspect as well, because there's a 4-week chunk where they're just not in the town. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, one supplementary question. Is the camp dry?
We have limited alcohol provisions at the camp.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Thank you.
Actually, that answered my question. Actually.
Yep, Member Harmon.
Just out of curiosity, there's reference in the report that the extension to 2061 is to align it with the lease with DevWA. That, and it's obviously contingent on getting the approval today. Was that part of the original lease secured for the land for Wheatstone from the outset, or was that something that's sort of evolved over time and is additional to that original lease?
It's in line with the Wheatstone lease for the plant.
Right.
Yeah, which is 2061. So the plant lease is 2061, the gas processing plant.
Yeah.
Just an opportunity for you to speak if you wish to about Lot 4001. Given that this was mooted to be the site but no longer, is there any plans for that site moving forward that could act in a way to enhance community benefit for Onslow?
So really for us, for Chevron, we need certainty on the long-term accommodation of our workforce, so it comes back to a decision on the current amendment at hand, this development application, before we could make any further considerations. That said, the commercial framework of the purchase of that land requires Chevron to discuss with Development WA as the first point. But really the certainty on our long-term accommodation use would enable us to have a consideration and a conversation.
Thank you. Well, thank you. I take that point. And the other question is that, you know, you've made a substantial investment to Onslow already. You've talked about $355 million of investment. If the extension occurs today, over the life of that extension, do you see that there'd be any further investment in the town?
Yeah, so the 355 million that's been quoted, that was part of our state development agreement. So that was a formal commitment, if you like. But we're also very proud of the discretionary social investment that we've continued to put into the town. So we sponsor the local daycare, the Onslow Chamber of Commerce. We have telethons, speech and hearing that come in and provide, ear assessments for the local children, et cetera, et cetera. So that's something that Chevron does anywhere that we operate. That's basically our global model. So that commitment to the town would continue. We like to ensure that it's a co-design model. So we continually talk to the community about what it actually is their priorities and then shape our investment around that. So I've just called out a handful of highlights, but there's actually many more, and we don't envisage any change in that approach to the town.
Okay, thank you. Members, are there any further questions? Thank you very much for your deputation today. Members, that concludes the deputations today. So we will move to consideration of our one item on the agenda. Just a reminder, if anyone has joined us late, item 3.1 has been withdrawn and to further reviewed before coming back for the SPC. So we are now dealing with item 3.2, the development application to extend the use of the Wheatstone Village Workforce Accommodation Facility in the Ashburton North Strategic Industrial Area. On this item, we are joined by Sean Collingwood and Patrick McClure. Join us at the table. Thank you.
We're expecting Patrick.
He's an apology.
No problem.
Sick child.
Oh dear. All right, Sean, thank you. You've heard the deputations today. We've got the report before us. Is there anything that you wanted to add after hearing the deputations, or would you like to go straight to questions from members?
I'm happy to go straight to I feel there's a balanced argument in the report, and both arguments were presented to SPC.
Thank you very much, Sean. Members, any questions for Sean? Heron.
Sean, I just wanted to ask around the proposed change to condition 1 and whether that is something that you're supportive of.
Yes, we're comfortable with that. We've actually tabled it.
I'll have a hard copy, but we will bring it up on the screen. That's in relation.
Sean post, but
okay, so there's a modified version that you've provided, which is an
alternate recommendation. So I'm reading that as a recommendation from the department.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Any other questions for Sean? No further questions? Okay. Oh, sorry, Claire, didn't see your hand there.
Chair. In regards to this approval, noting that it's the planning framework and what's I think there's nothing for this approval to be extended further. Is that correct? That can be revisited at any point in time?
It can, under the scheme, it can't be approved permanently, it can only be approved temporarily.
So there's a flexibility.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions for Sean? Okay, then we'll move to consideration of the item, and we do have an alternate recommendation on the screen. Can everybody see that? I don't know if you'd like a chance to review it. Happy with that? Can see it? Okay. Can I then see whether there's a mover and seconder for this item? Moved by Commissioner Heron, seconded by Member Harmon. Oh, sorry, did I just say Member Harmon? I meant
That's right.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah, sorry. That's correct.
all over it.
Thank you. Would you like to speak to the item, Commissioner Heron?
I would. And again, given careful consideration and having dealt with a number of workforce accommodation situations, and I appreciate the tension points that do exist, I think we do need to accept that the proposal is inconsistent with the current WAPC position statement. However, I do believe that, if you like, the ship has sailed. That is the decision that was made when the initial camp was made, I think, was ultimately set a particular framework and the investment that's gone into that. And as I tried to, in exploring the various items, to my view, it is around what is the extent of benefit derived by the extent of inconvenience and investment that would be applied to the location. I do have formed the view, and based on the officer's report, have drawn the conclusion that the benefits would be limited and not balanced with the significant investment that would be required in order for that to relocate. I do think that there are lessons learned potentially for other sites and considerations, and I would definitely encourage Chevron as a responsible corporate citizen to obviously continue its engagement with the Shire around how maximising those community benefits can be undertaken. But ultimately, I feel that the extension is appropriate and is able to be accommodated and is in line with ultimate intention.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Herron. Commissioner Harman, do you wish to add anything?
Just briefly, I had the benefit of being involved in the planning for the ANSIA for everything outside of Chevron's control, but also the Onslow townsite expansion back when that was first contemplated. So I'm aware of the balance, the delicate balance between the workforce and the residents of Onslow. And I think what Chevron have delivered and what's before us is probably striking the right balance. I think Onslow's a small town, right? There's 700, 800 people there now. Obviously much grander plans for much more, but it hasn't been delivered. So there's sort of 800 people. To expect Chevron to put double the town every few years, I think just puts an unnecessary strain on the infrastructure, which can be avoided. So support for us.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Harman. Would any other members like to speak? Commissioner Lakey.
Chair, I agree with both Commissioner Herron and Member Harman. I think that one of the important points that came out for me out of the discussion this morning was very balanced, like you say, and it is a bit tricky, was I couldn't see a lot of benefit to the town over and above where it currently is and moving to the new lot 4001. I think it was really, I appreciate going through the swing cycle, and that to me, I was trying to imagine how could being closer to the town make any difference to where it is now. And I think for me that's an important point to move a whole facility that size across for what I could see not a huge gain or benefit is difficult to conceive. So I'm happy to support the motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Lakey. Commissioner Adair.
Thanks, Chair. I do understand the position of the Shire, and I understand that their desires and things. I do want to say thank you to Member Harman for his words, because understanding that balance and having that experience does help in the decision-making process. So for me, on balance, I don't see any absolute improvement to the current situation with a relocation, and in fact I think it would probably, as Member Harman has said, put more pressure on infrastructure, etc., in the town than actually the status quo. And I appreciate there's been a lot of inquiry and state investigations into exactly this matter, but for the moment, on balance, I believe that I can support the application as presented.
Thank you, Commissioner Adair. Do any other members wish to comment? Perhaps just a couple of comments from me. I just would like to acknowledge Chantal McGurk from the Shire of Ashburton, a very strong advocate for Onslow, and had put a very, passionate case forward as to the why, and I think that was very well articulated. I think Chevron, in response, has really been able to outline that they have had quite an impact in Onslow through their investment, through the ability that they have through their town site families. I mentioned 4 families in the town that are integrated into the community, that they do have an office base in the town and that they continue to provide some community benefit through programs and sponsorships in the town. Probably the key thing for me was that in terms of the lot 4001, that Chevron does not have an intention to change the way in which they operate their FIFO workforce, that they would simply be continuing to operate a 24-hour workforce over those 12-hour shifts. So in terms of integration and the way in which FIFO works, you know, those lovely thoughts of having people join the local football club and really integrate are really difficult when the operation is FIFO in that nature. So I think that the benefit of moving closer to town cannot be met with the operations continuing as they are with the FIFO workforce. Also just like to mention that this is a discretionary use, so we do have discretion as the committee to approve this extension, and it is can, as Sean has highlighted, be for a specified period. So I believe that the discretion is warranted. This is an established camp. It's a very big investment for Chevron, and to expect that they take that operation and move it closer to town but maintain the same operation, I don't think is a reasonable expectation with sufficient community benefit to justify that. So support the alternate recommendation. Are there any further comments? Is there any dissent? The alternate recommendation is carried and that is approved. Thank you all. Thank you, Sean. So that concludes our non-confidential items for decision, and we do not have any confidential items for discussion, decision or noting. Members, are there any other urgent business? If there are things that need to be discussed confidentially, we can go to a closed session. Commissioner Herron, do you wish to talk about the R code review, because we may need to go to closed session? If you would like to provide an update, I can assist you with that.
That would be great.
Okay, well, thank you all. Appreciate your attendance. We will now call for a mover and seconder to close the meeting to the public. Thank you very much, Member Harman and Member